Dun, 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 dun. Hello and welcome. I feel like I should have trumpets, okay, especially today to talk about this episode. Welcome to Heart and Mind. I'm Dr. Dina McMillan, and woo, today we're talking about unleashing the true alpha male, power, charisma, and mastery. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you will join me every Tuesday live at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I have people joining me across the globe. So unfortunately, it's 1 o'clock in the morning in the UK. So welcome to all my insomniacs in the UK. It is 10 a.m. on the east coast of Australia, where I have quite a few people who also join me. So welcome, welcome. And across the US, thank you for being here. And in Canada, if we have any Canadians that are watching the show, welcome, welcome. Now, please tell everyone 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. And if you can't make it, you may actually be watching this on YouTube or Rumble or Daily Clout or even on X, because I usually upload the episodes on my X feed. Now, if you want to talk to me or watch anything on X, my X address is just the @ symbol, and it's DRDINA with the number 1. So let's get started and see what's going on. First of all, if you're new or you don't remember, I am a social psychologist. I am not a clinical psychologist, so people don't come to see me for therapy. What social psychology does is we study the brain and we study how people are, how they learn, how they're influenced and persuaded, how they're manipulated, coerced, indoctrinated, and brainwashed. Now, I should tell you, I also do work with individuals and couples, but I have a slightly different approach because I'm a social psychologist. We work on how to change things as quickly and completely as possible. And you'll see that theme running throughout this program. It's also the reason I have slides, not just because it's easier to go back and remember, or even with the sound off. You can basically just run through it and see what I'm talking about. But also, studies have found we have a picture superiority effect. So if we hear information or read information and it has an image with it, especially a relevant image, we are significantly more likely to remember the information. And because I'm offering information on this program that you will not hear anywhere else, I really want you to remember it. This is information you can immediately take out, put in your life toolbox, and use as needed. Now, speaking of toolboxes and important information that should be there, please get your own copy of the Pfizer papers. This is such critical information. The people who put it together are so rigorously put a lot at stake to put this together. This is information that the pharmaceutical industry wanted to hide for 75 years. They actually went to court to try to hide this information for 75 years, but they were not allowed to do it, but they made it really hard to find. It was just overwhelming loads of information. Naomi Wolf, Amy Kelly, and her team took years to actually pull this out and make it accessible so you can understand exactly what's going on. Now, the COVID pandemic affected all of us. It's one experience that we all share. But because no one has gone to jail for what they did then, the probability of something similar occurring is pretty high, especially if we don't get the information on how it was done and what was done. So do yourself a favor and support Daily Clout's historic work that's bringing information to you that, again, you will not find elsewhere. This is brave, courageous information that we all need to know. If you consider yourself someone who's unplugged from the matrix, this is information that you need to know. Now, last week, we talked about how modern women have blunders, how the culture that is targeting all women, but especially younger women, is really telling them, don't embrace your body as a woman, don't embrace your role as a woman, as a mother, as a female. Instead, you should actually empower yourself by acting like men, and not just any kind of men, like bad men. Well, I have to tell you, the left is nothing if not interesting. Everything they do conflicts. Daily Cloud and Rumble have a really informed audience, so I'm sure you probably wondered, how can they support Islam with its attitudes towards women, towards gays, and also to support gay rights, support women's rights? That doesn't make any sense. Well, welcome to the left. They also taught women that men are terrible creatures, terrible. But in order to be empowered, you have to act like the worst type of them. And at the same time, they keep using the term toxic masculinity and describing any natural predisposition by males as being toxic. So we talked about that last week. I hope if you missed it, go back and watch. It is definitely worth watching, because I'm standing back as a social scientist and I am aghast. Oh my goodness, the number of women coming to me, again, as I said, through my company, Ethical Strategic Solutions, that I'm going to talk about a little bit today. I actually help individuals, I help couples, I help families, and I also am putting together large groups online so that we can actually share information. You can ask questions live. That is something that I'm going to be doing. So contact me if that's something you're interested in. But I get a lot of women coming to me with needing help, because what they're being told to do, how they're told to behave, is making them very unhappy and very lonely. But today we're talking about something positive. And we're tipping this over. So instead of toxic masculinity, which is like focusing on the negative, let's talk about the true alpha male. And you're going to understand from watching this why I call it the true alpha male. These guys are natural leaders, power, charisma, mastery. I hope you're interested, because already on X, when I announced this show, I got a very mean comment from a guy saying it's terrible for a woman. I'm not going to listen to a woman talking about masculinity, and putting up a message saying listening to women causes men to shrink. Oh, we're going to talk about his type too, but I must have pushed a button. I hope I pushed a button for you where you're like, yeah, I'm a great guy and I want to be even better. I'm going to talk to you about how to do that. So stay with me. Have you been watching all of these fluoride headlines talking about the impact of fluoride in the water supply? The future of oral care isn't fluoride, it's peptides. And the wellness company just launched the first ever peptide paste that regenerates gum tissues, strengthens enamel, and naturally whitens your teeth. It's called Smile, a doctor-formulated breakthrough that works with your body's natural repair process. This advanced formula blends targeted peptides with blue spirulina, aloe vera, and powerful remineralizers to boost blood flow, stimulate collagen, and help rebuild lost gum tissue, all while gently whitening without sensitivity. No fluoride, no peroxide, no artificial dyes, Just real clean ingredients that fight bad bacteria and support a healthier mouth from the inside out. Ready to upgrade your oral health? Experience the future of oral care with Smile and get 10% off plus free shipping. Head to dailycloudhealth.com and use the code DailyCloud. Take action today for a healthier tomorrow. Well, again, welcome. And if you're just turning in, this is going to be an interesting episode. If I push some guy's buttons, a guy that obviously does not like or respect women, he puts up a little memes showing a guy aging from listening to a woman for 2 minutes. Let me tell you, true alpha males don't treat women with that kind of disrespect. Now, if anything I'm talking about with regard to alpha males, with regard to anything you see on the show, you want to know more, you want to increase your alpha score, you want to talk about a previous show, or the topic resonated and you want to know if I'm holding any classes, contact me at Ethical Strategic Solutions. Now, the email for Ethical Strategic Solutions is just ethicalstrategicsolutions@gmail.com. However, on this show, if you want to contact me more directly, not go through my PA, contact me at drdinablog@gmail.com or go on at drdina1 like happened today and let me know what you think. If you want to know more, if there's something that resonates, you have a question, contact me. Now, this show came about for several reasons. First of all, I should tell you the alpha male information that I'm putting together and sharing with you, this is just a tiny snippet of it. I only have an hour. It is enough that I have been writing a book on it. I put the information together while working on other projects. It's a labor of love over a period of years. Because like what we saw with the Tate brothers, now I realize that because this show is on Daily Cloud and Rumble, that the chances are good you probably lean a little bit more on the conservative side. That's why I use the example of the Tate brothers. They're popular among a lot of guys on the right, and they just got charged with rape and human trafficking. And if you ever listen to these guys or watch these guys, I was stunned and appalled because their attitude towards women is so bad. There is no Christian or ethical, you can be agnostic and be ethical. I don't see how any ethical guy that views women as human beings who could admire these men. They are cruel. They are horrible. They're exploitative. But they are also considered, often when you see guys like this, and not just the Tate brothers, but men who behave like this, they're often referred to as alpha. And nothing could be further from the truth. And I just got a note from Brian O'Shea, who was with me a few weeks ago, saying this is a great topic. Well, talking to him was one of the reasons I decided I needed to make it as a show, because we were talking about what an alpha male is. And Brian, don't listen, Brian, cover your ears. Brian is absolutely a true alpha male. So I felt I could be open with him about a lot of this, unlike the guy who contacted me today. Watch his show, investigate everything. Oh my goodness, the things you learn. But being an alpha male means you act like that. You scan, you keep your eyes open, you pay attention to what's going on. It is really crucial. This kind of an attitude, if you find these kind of t-shirts funny, if you say lighten up, if you're thinking lighten up to me, this is not something a true alpha male would find funny or amusing. This typifies what is called toxic masculinity, and they're right. And in case you can't see, the first t-shirt's easier to see. It says no means yes, Yes means anal. And of course, the way that's implied is that it's not with consent. Speaking of lack of consent, the bottom t-shirt, which they had so many protests they had to stop selling, but they sold this t-shirt for years, so a lot of guys have them. It says, "It's not rape, it's a snuggle with a struggle." And for me, seeing that, working with sexual assault victims, having been in terrible situations myself, it's cringeworthy. It actually makes my stomach pull in. It is scary to come across guys with attitudes like that. There's nothing funny about that. Now, what am I doing with the alpha? How am I assessing the different categories of men? And unlike a lot of things that are like, oh, this is an alpha male, I think I picked up, I actually looked at podcasts and YouTube videos where they've talked about, oh, this is an alpha male, with guys talking about what an alpha male is. And you'll see some consistency in information, but I think they missed some points that I actually caught. And perhaps, unlike what this guy said, it's because I am outside of it. Sometimes when I'm talking about what women do right and wrong, there's a little bit of hesitation, because if there's something that I do I really want to admit that it's not good? Now, if you've watched my show before, you know I will. But most of the time, we hesitate a little about acknowledging something that we do as being as destructive as it might be. Having an outsider, me being a woman, I have no vested interest in actually assessing what manhood is, ideal manhood is. And as I mentioned, this was a project I put together for years. And once I put it together and mentioned it in conversations with corporate clients, with people that I met at parties, a lot of guys were like, oh, can you teach somebody how to do this? And the thing is, part of the time that I spent was, yeah, I can. So we're basing what category of men we're talking about off character traits, personality, emotional relationships, and a few other key items that we'll discuss. Brace yourself. If you're male, brace yourself. You may be pleasantly surprised. But always, as always, on this show, I never talk about a problem without talking about a quick and effective solution. So stay with me. Let's look at this. I know you've heard me rave about how much this product has helped me. Well, what about you? Are you ready to move easily and independently without pain or stiffness holding you back? Do you want to look in the mirror and see a plump, hydrated glow instead of more fine lines and wrinkles? Discover Native Path Collagen, made with only type 1 and type 3 collagen fibers, the two most important types that make up 90% of the collagen in your body. It's found in your cartilage, bones, skin, hair, nails, and gut. Types 1 and 3 provide maximum benefits without the need for unnecessary fillers. Native Path Collagen is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners. Plus, it's third-party tested for heavy metals, ensuring purity and safety. Completely flavorless, Native Path Collagen can be added to anything: coffee, smoothies, oatmeal, you name it. Its peptide formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes perfectly without clumping. And the best part, Native Path offers amazing bundle deals. You can get 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice. Plus, they offer an 800 number for any questions about usage, recipes, or ingredients, and you'll speak to a real person ready to help. Join their private Facebook community to share success stories, recipes, and to support each other on this journey called life. Visit getnativepath.com/Daily Cloud and start your transformation today. That is GETNATIVEPATH.com, then /DAILYCLOUT. I should mention, since I just ran the Native Path Collagen ad, every woman I know that knows me, that gets to see me up close. Now, I don't have on any foundation or anything, so you can see my skin. Every woman I know, that they're like, okay, what are you doing? And the only thing I did differently was that Native Path Collagen. So, all you guys that are watching this, you want your hair to get thicker? It does that too. Now, what am I using as the criteria to separate men into different groups? Well, first of all, we're talking about character. So basically your attitudes and beliefs. And this is not just, I'm not talking about what you write down or what you say at a party are your attitudes and beliefs. I'm talking about the attitudes and beliefs that actually consistently drive your behavior. Your integrity. We talk about this all the time. Male, female, you need integrity. Integrity changes your life unlike anything else. For males, your protectiveness. This is a natural male quality that the feminist movement convinced women is a bad thing. No, it is not. It is a natural quality and it should be emphasized, not de-emphasized. Your consistency. Do you consistently behave in a way that people can predict based on your principles and your character? Are you decisive? Now, I don't mean stubborn. Notice it doesn't say stubborn, it says decisive. If you make a decision, do you stick with it? Of course, that's all linked back to integrity. And your adherence to your higher principles. I am not saying you have to be perfect. All of us make mistakes at times. But how often do you make mistakes? And for some of these questions, some of these categories, you would need to ask somebody who knows you well how well you stick to them, because sometimes we try to give ourselves a rationalization or a free pass. No free passes here. Your personality, how open are you about who you are? And I don't mean openness as in telling everybody your personal business, because a true alpha doesn't do that. But as with integrity, who you are, you say who you are, and it is realistic. You have consideration for others. Nothing defines the non-alpha males more than lack of consideration for other people. Your need for admiration. Now, true alpha males command respect. And they expect to be treated a particular way. They won't stand for nonsense. But they also don't need the constant applause, that narcissistic need for applause that some of the other categories of men need. That's just ego. The sense of entitlement. There's a work ethic to true alpha males at every level of society. They expect to contribute. They're as much about and more about what they put in than what they take out. And compartmentalization. It is very difficult to be a truly open, considerate, consistent person if you act completely differently in different environments. Now, I don't mean that every way you act is appropriate everywhere. There should be a way you behave with your family that you don't necessarily show at work. And especially for someone in a leadership position, there's a degree of distance that you have to keep from your colleagues that's appropriate to that role. But one of the things I've found about people who do not have good, solid morals is that they're able to do it because they will compartmentalize their lives. They will have a totally separate immoral aspect of their lives that they try to tell themselves doesn't impact the rest. They're lying to themselves. They may not be aware of it. Who we are, it shows and it impacts us everywhere. Now, interestingly enough, in studying the true alpha males, for any woman listening to this, here's the good news about a true alpha male. Of all the different types of male I've come across, true alpha males are the most likely to be loyal to their partners. They bond very closely with their partner. They absolutely need a true alpha female or they're at a disadvantage, but they will bond with their partner and they will be loyal. They are not like some of the other types of men, especially men in leadership positions, who use that position to exploit everyone underneath them, including exploiting anyone they can use as a sexual partner. They have good self-awareness. So they know where their faults are. They know what they can do. They don't brag, but they're aware of what they do well, as in addition to what they do poorly. They're generous with their time and their energy. That doesn't mean they're indiscriminate or try to bribe people, but they have a generosity of spirit. They're generous with their money. If they care about someone, they share with them. They will attach. Again, their attachment to their partner is impressive. So for all of the women who are so tired of dealing with guys they cannot trust, let's talk about the benefits of being with a true alpha male. They also have empathy. And because they do have empathy, I have not yet met a true alpha male who's a misogynist. You know how these guys often say, you have a certain type of guy, oh, I can't understand women, because you don't see us as people. A true alpha male views women as people with different roles and drives and circumstances, but people. So they do have empathy and loyalty. When, again, the integrity, when they give their word, when they say, I will do something, when they're loyal to the people they care about, they're loyal to those to whom they owe a debt of honor. And by the way, this isn't imaginary. I know true alpha males, and they didn't realize I was studying them. Sorry, guys. But yes, and they are all very different as far as socioeconomically, formal education. That is not what makes someone a true alpha male. There is variation between these men in crucial areas. How accountable are they? How much responsibility will they take? Will you take on a lot of responsibility? I look at what it went on with Elon Musk and Doge. These guys that were working for Doge, sleeping on the floor, he's sleeping on the couch. He's the wealthiest man in the world. He's sleeping on a couch so he can get this stuff done. In the short period of time, he's the special employee for the government because he wants to help the American people. That's the kind of responsibility a true alpha male takes on. Excuse me. Risk-taking. They don't always play it careful, because they know no risk, no reward. And in order to do something, in order to achieve something, you have to take risks. But you make sure the risk is smart. Resistance to pressure. So true alpha males are more resistant to peer pressure. I would say another category of alpha males also pretty resistant to pressure. And they command respect. It's amazing. The situations I've seen where these guys walk in a room and they don't say anything, and automatically people notice them just from the way they carry themselves. When they start talking, people listen. It's an amazing thing to be. And you're going to know why I'm doing this. I have a vested interest in having as many true alpha males who vote like I do as possible. Our society needs a whole lot more of these guys. Now, other fundamental differences is in the categories of men that I'm going to talk about. Critical thinking. You do not need formal education to have critical thinking. Situational awareness. And here's something interesting. I've noticed this kind of situational awareness even in animals, where the alpha animal never completely relaxes while the herd is feeding or whatever. They always have one ear paying attention to threat. It's amazing how consistent that is with human beings. Self-reliance. A true alpha male is willing to go against the crowd if he believes the crowd is wrong. In order to do that, you cannot concede based on popularity. So let's look a little further. The true alpha, natural leader with consistent positive traits, integrity, strength, and don't forget protectiveness. Now, part of that protectiveness is also financial. A true alpha male is far less likely to do something like hiding his assets so that if the relationship breaks up, he doesn't have to share with his ex or take care of his children, which I see often working in family services. Here's a media example. So I'm going to make it easy for you all. You want to figure out what these different categories of men are? I'm going to make it easy. A media example, Gladiator. General Maximus in Gladiator is one of the purest examples of a true alpha male I've seen in media. They don't tend to put many in media for, number one, a lot of the people working in the studio and working in the film are anything but true alpha males. But also, they don't want people to realize how important it is. This role was so appealing that Russell Crowe won an Oscar. They think he won an Oscar for his wonderful acting. He's a fantastic actor in every film he does. He won it because he so realistically portrayed a true alpha male. So you want to know what they look like? Watch Gladiator. Now, there's another type of alpha male. There are actually two other types. Alpha minor. Now, they have a lot of the traits with regard to principles, with being trustworthy, having some degree of personal integrity. However, what they lack the protectiveness, and emotionally, they are a little pulled in. They're not self-relying. They're a little bit more self-serving. They're pulled in, not through leadership, but because they are more afraid of the vulnerability that comes with true attachment than a true alpha male. So it affects their attachment. It affects their openness, and it certainly affects their protectiveness. Most of the time, the alpha minors I've met are not willing to put themselves at risk to protect others in the way a true alpha will. An immediate example is George Smiley and Tinker Tailor, Soldier Spy. That's a good film too. Alpha imitator, Tate brothers, here we go. They possess self-aggrandizing alpha traits. So they're smart, they're assertive, they're risk-taking, but they're not very good people. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more. They're great if they're your buddy, but they possess a lot of the traits of the angry beta. So in a second, we'll look at what angry betas are and realize that alpha imitator is just a much larger version of an angry beta male. They just have a bigger ego. They are more clever. They're more assertive, maybe more skilled and talented than an angry beta. What's an example? The Wolf of Wall Street. I looked at that film and I cringed. How can this guy be held up as an example? And this is the kind of thing, that movie made a lot of money. This is the kind of guy that belongs to the pickup artists and the Tate brothers, and Entourage is another show that really promotes this kind of an attitude, and it's so unhelpful. So what is an angry beta? They're resentful. They're usually pretty bright. They're clever. They're skilled at something, but they're resentful. So they complain a lot. Extremely selfish, exploitative. They'll take advantage of anybody that's around them that they can take advantage of. And usually that includes women. Domineering over anyone vulnerable. That includes women and other types of beta males. They have a cruel sense of humor. They would be the ones that would buy those t-shirts that says no means yes, yes means anal. They're often secretive and sneaky. Now remember, the alpha imitator has these same traits. They just have more talent and more money and more skill and a bigger ego, so they're willing to, and more risk taking, so they have a bigger presence. But underneath, this is what they are: secretive and sneaky. And angry betas, their ideal is an alpha imitator. Media example: have you seen Succession? There are two characters from Succession that are perfect examples here. Kendall Roy, played by Jeremy Strong in Succession, is an example of an alpha imitator. I'm sorry, of an angry beta. And then we have the compliant beta. When I was a kid, I don't know if you've ever seen the Flintstones. I used to cringe at Barney Rubble because Fred used to constantly talk him into all kinds of trouble. He was so sweet, but not a single protective instinct. He and his family, in some of those episodes, I remember an episode where their family was homeless because he did something that Fred told him to do, and it was a big mistake. Fred was fine, Barney was homeless. Compliant betas, they're often sweet, caring, but they're easily dominated, pressured, and bullied. They are not protective of their self or others. So what's an example? Again, we go to Succession. Greg Hirsch, played by Nicholas Brown in Succession, is an example of a compliant beta. And I'm sure you can think of some other examples of compliant betas. Now, why am I giving you examples from TV shows and film? Because it's storytelling. And I've mentioned before how the brain works. Storytelling is a powerful tool that embeds principles, beliefs, and desired behaviors in your brain. Its message says, do this. So remember, anything that's paid attention to is perceived as important to your brain and something you should replicate. The appeal of the true alpha is natural and universal. People will admire an alpha imitator until a true alpha walks in the room. This is what we should be teaching boys. We should be training our boys and our young men to be true alphas. And if anybody has any contacts with the military, this is a perfect place to train guys in the military to be true alphas. And here's something that I'm talking myself out of a job by mentioning. Law enforcement's another place. Law enforcement and the military have extremely high rates of domestic violence in the families of their personnel. The more we would train these guys to be true alphas, the less likely they will have a domestic violence relationship. So you can kill two birds with one stone. When we have a community that has a lot of true alphas, the community is strong, resilient, it protects itself, it protects the community and the culture. When we have more alpha minors, their lack of protectiveness is a problem. You will have some positive things going on in the society, but it's vulnerable to predators and destructive cultural norms. More alpha imitators, that aggression and ego and need to be admired and look at me and I'm willing to destroy other people, the need to exploit. So more conflict, wars, severe economic imbalance, exploitation of the vulnerable. Yuck. Greater number of angry betas, broken families, advocacy of unfair social policies promoted by imitators that are within the ranks. Can you see why so many people on the left are in so much trouble with mental health issues and family issues? It's quite simple. They are appealing to angry betas. More compliant betas, your culture and society are soon dominated by imitators from antagonistic groups. So you get taken over. Welcome to the UK. Now, let's just briefly talk about how you can improve your alpha score. Ta-da! Okay. Now, again, the training I put together, it has scenarios, all sorts of scenarios, and you learn to choose given a scenario, you learn to choose the alpha choice. And then we speed it up so it becomes automatic. And then you take that into your life. You can actually train yourself to be a true alpha. Now, if you are a true alpha, you will take responsibility for your actions and your choices. No excuses. Here's a simple way to start becoming more alpha. No more excusing language. You don't say things like, well, that's just what I'm like, or all men behave like this. I have seen so many men say, well, men are like that, but I'm different. Well, no. I've taught women that I've trained always ignore everything that comes after but. The first part of the sentence was the information that you needed. And that boys will be boys. Now, unless that's applied to running all over the place, because that testosterone gives them an energy surge, it's just insane. They will also tend to be more aggressive, more combative with each other. It took me years to finally recognize that biology counts, because I was being told it didn't, but that's just not true. So there will be behaviors that boys will get into, scraps that they'll get into that you won't necessarily see with girls who have that strong nurturing instinct and are more likely to be cooperative, although also still competitive, just in a different way. But if you are training yourself to be more true alpha, you take responsibility. Again, hearkening back to integrity, you take responsibility for what you do and say. You take responsibility. You look at things around you and say, well, this is right and that's wrong. No excuses. Big one. Again, I didn't want to have to put Moses again like I've done this week on my X feed. If you look at the 10 commandments, the 10 commandments say thou shalt not. They don't say thou shalt not if you're female, but it's okay for the guys, especially if he's had a few too many beers. Okay? No moral double standards. It's one of the most amazing things I found about true alpha males. They do, in spite of the fact that society basically gives men a moral pass, especially about their sexual behavior. True alpha males don't give themselves a moral double standard and a moral pass. They take responsibility for what they do and what they are. So how do you get that? Well, simple. When you put yourself into a situation, you get into a situation, you ask yourself, would it bother me if my partner did this? If the answer is yes, then you decline. One of the biggest issues that I have is with bachelor parties. No, don't at me about, you just need to lighten up. It's a social tradition. Okay. It is a problem because what you're doing is advocating infidelity even before the guy gets married. So you're bringing strippers and prostitutes and all of these things to a guy because he's getting married. And every guy there is probably also in a commitment relationship. So it's like a license to cheat sometimes. Just ask yourself, if my partner did this, would it bother me? If she had naked men waving their wing-wangs in her face and she was all, they were all over her and she was rubbing them back, would that bother me? If the answer is yes, you don't do it either. It's a good, I know it's not exactly the same. Women sometimes give a little bit of leeway to males in a way because we do recognize that men are a bit different. But when it comes to actual morals, That's a good way to lose trust. And even if she never finds out, it's a scrape off of your personal integrity. And remember, your integrity is based on what you do and say, whether anybody in your life sees it or not. Integrity is basically like walking around with God. God sees all. So does your integrity. So does your brain. And you'll start having first blind spots where you'll make excuses and you kind of close that bit off. And before you know it, you don't have integrity anymore. Stand up for your principles and beliefs. And I don't mean in every situation. There are times when you have to just you're not in a position to make a comment at that time. I'm not saying you have to do it everywhere in every occasion, but you have to be someone, if you have principles about something, if you believe something is wrong, you will say so. Even just by saying, no, I'm not going to participate in celebrating behaviors and lifestyles that go against my principles. You don't sit and grab everybody and say, you can't do it either. But you in no way promote it, you in no way support it, and you don't pretend you do. Now, everybody saw the tennis, all the losses that Novak Djokovic, I don't know, I'm probably mispronouncing his name and I do apologize. Is it Djokovic? He lost tennis tournaments that he could not participate in because he refused to get the COVID vaccine. And he just stood tall and said, no, I'm not doing it. I've seen too many risks. I've seen too many dangers. It's untested. I'm not doing it. Oh my goodness, the drama he went through, people calling him names, people booing him being banned. I know that he wanted to go to Australia and they wouldn't let him in. Don't back down if it's important. Now, if it's just your ego, where it's like, well, I want people to agree with me. I want people to think I'm important. That's not the same thing. What I'm talking about, and you don't always have to be on a soapbox. A lot of things I don't agree with. Some people would be surprised because I'm not always preaching against it. But if they paid attention, they noticed I'm not supporting it either. And if I'm asked directly, I don't lie. You have to be strong enough to say, even in the face of everybody saying, oh, you should do this. This is all of us who refused to get vaccinated during the COVID fiasco. When everybody told us we were killing grandma, we were killing kids, that their vaccine wouldn't work if we didn't get vaccinated, when they were treating us literally like social pariahs. I wasn't able to work for 2.5 years because I'd refused to get vaccinated. And I just said, I did my research and it is dangerous. It's not only not proven, it's dangerous. And no, I'm not doing it. Yes, you're wrong. And I've never seen any kind of working vaccine that only works if somebody over there gets it. If it works, it will work whether I get it or not. So a lot of you already have practice at doing this with regard to COVID. You just have to spread that out to other areas of your life. You have to look at something and say, I don't agree with that. And we actually, the United States is a world example right now to people who value Christian principles and Western culture. So you don't have to be Christian, but you value Western culture, you value basic ethics. The United States, by re-electing Donald Trump, in the spite of all the names we were called, all the vilification we faced, all the yelling, people have yelled at me. I told you, my whole family just doesn't speak to me because I voted for Trump. But the fact that Trump and his supporters are willing to go up against the progressive left ideology and say, no, we don't share those beliefs, we don't share those principles, we're not willing to turn aside from the destruction this is causing our society, we give courage to each other to speak up. And that's one way the internet has been an extremely valuable tool. So if something is important, don't back down. Now, here's another thing that is important. One of the things I talked about last week, and I've talked about before, is the left progressive ideology is promoting an attitude of men of treating women like spoiled teenagers, where you see it with teenagers as well. You see parents and men in a lot of the programs and films where they're always backing down. They get cursed at, called horrible names. They never respond. They're constantly apologizing. They never just say no and mean it. If you are a true alpha male, you want to up your alpha score, be caring and considerate, hear somebody out, but don't be afraid to say no. There are times when you just have to tell them, no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not paying for that. No, I'm not agreeing with that. No, that is not fair. And I understand your perspective, but my perspective is different, and I'm not going along with that. And you don't allow other people to manipulate or dominate you. You don't. Now, there are certain situations where you have a boss or you're being mentored, and you treat that person with consideration and respect, and they're in a leadership position over you. But there's a difference between allowing yourself to accommodate the position you're in, as far as having a leader, and being dominated by someone or manipulated by someone. And I want to give you a quick example of what true alpha males actually bring to the table. Some years ago, I was in a reality show. Yeah, I know. But I was brought on as an expert, and I was dealing with 3 families with adult children. 2 of the families had sons. One family had 1 son. The other family had 2 sons. So we had 3 males, one of whom was a true alpha. Now, the single son, came from a very wealthy family, college educated, classically trained violinist, attractive guy. The son from the eldest son from the other family, not as polished, high school education, clever as anything, actually invented a device that you can put in an existing engine to increase fuel efficiency and torque. Anybody interested, get in touch, because as far as I know, he hasn't sold it yet. But this guy was a true alpha. And it was interesting watching the dynamic play out, a lot of which happened off camera, I'm sorry to say. The guy from the wealthy family, from the nice part of town with a college education and the classical violinist training, expected, when he saw these working class guys and a woman, he expected to walk in and be the dominant male in the space. But that's not what happened. It took 2 hours, maybe, before the power dynamic shifted very palpably, and the eldest son from the working class family took over. By the second time they interacted, when he was making a comment, the guy from the wealthy family kept glancing over to see the reaction from the true alpha male in the room. He kept looking. He didn't even realize he was doing it. And of course, during the early interactions, he tried to use the family wealth, his college education, his polish, his social polish, as leverage to gain authority over the other people there. It just didn't work. Nature is an amazing thing. So I don't care what social class you are. I don't care how much formal education you have or don't have. You can become an alpha male. Now, I know that I haven't had, this show is only an hour. We haven't had a lot of time to go over a lot of the specifics about exactly what you do. But if you want to know more, you can contact me. If you want the training, contact me for the training. As I said, I'm going to put together an online session where it can be international. We can have as many people who want to participate, and that can be anonymous. So nobody has to know you're doing this. So that goes through my company, Ethical Strategic Solutions. Now, all of you watching this, if you want me to actually bring some of that information to a future show, contact me on the easiest way. Contact me on X. Go to @DrDina1. Contact me or email me. As I said, the email there goes directly to me. There's no personal assistant that has to go through it first and weed it out and decide, do I give her this? Do I not give her this? What do I do? We have a society right now that has given too much leverage to betas, especially angry betas. I would say the angry beta male and the angry beta female have filled the left progressive movement. So this is why people who could not even find Palestine on a map are now all wearing what do they call it, the keffiyeh and Palestine, and they're now anti-Semitic when they had nothing against Jews before. Another thing about angry betas, they are looking for something to disagree with. They're looking for something to protest. They're looking for something and somebody to blame for every problem they have in their lives. We cannot allow people who think like that to retain the dominant position they've had in our society for the last 20 years. It's now time for true alphas to step up, and for anybody who can to become a true alpha. Here, you have no more excuses. You can actually get trained to start thinking like this. I also will recommend again, get Carol Dweck's book on growth mindset. Because some of the things that you may learn about becoming a true alpha, thinking differently, having different principles, holding yourself accountable in a way you haven't, perhaps, that's going to be a little challenging. I won't lie to you. But if you actually embrace a growth mindset, you will see overcoming that difficulty as opening up new pathways in your brain, which it will do, as you taking a firm step forward in your journey to become a true alpha male. If we are going to thrive, we have active enemies right now. We have active enemies that are trying to destroy our society. We cannot afford to be tolerant. We have to oppose this, and we need true alpha males to do it. Again, if anybody has contacts with law enforcement, I have worked with law enforcement and the military for 17 years. If you want to actually increase their alpha score so that they handle the situations they're in much better and their personal lives stop being such a consistent problem, please get in touch with me through my business, Ethical Strategic Solutions. My company works internationally. I love traveling. For me, it's just some movies and a nap. I don't even get jet lag. I feel duty bound to do whatever I can because I value our Western society and I want it to thrive. Questions or comments, please contact me. Contact me at @DrDina1. Contact me at drdinablog@gmail.com so you can get to me directly. I want to hear from you. Do you want me to do more to show how to train yourself to be a true alpha male? I know I had to get the categories and everything today, so I wasn't able to go into as much detail as you might like. If you want me to do more, I ended up doing 4 episodes on Why are people woke? Because the information just kept expanding, and I wanted you to be able to actually know what we were talking about. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm Dr. Dina McMillan. I'm a social psychologist. This is Heart and Mind, and I will see you next week because we have no more boring Tuesdays.